Welcome to Cohesive Friendship Unit. My name's Chris. I am with Brian.
What's going on?
And Jeremy.
Yo.
Guys, we have covered No Man's Sky VR, part of the byeond update. We have covered No Man's Sky Online, part of the byeond update. But what about that mysterious third pillar? We're going to talk about that tonight, and then we're going to give our holistic view of No Man's Sky Beyond. We're going to review the update as a whole, and we're going to review No Man's Sky up to this point. Should you buy this game today? But before we get into all that, we are doing a giveaway. We're giving away a Steam code of Astrologia on Steam at 900 subs. Guys, we are so close to 1,000. We're getting there. We're almost there, guys. So your support would be super much appreciated. We are still looking for the recipient of the Northgard code. We did not forget about that. We're still reaching out to people. Alright, guys. Here's how we're going to do this video. And I'm going to timestamp this because I'm cool that way. We're going to, number one, talk about the third pillar of the game, which is very vague. It's basically everything else they decided to do. Brian's already sighing. Next, we're going to talk about... next, that was the last update. Next, we're going to talk about Beyond, just kind of as a whole. Just wrap up Beyond. And finally, we're going to talk about No Man's Sky now. Like, should you buy it? And last, weird bit of housekeeping. I am the only one who's played this in VR. I have played this in VR extensively. And Brian and Jeremy have not played it in VR. So that's just something to think about when we get into the nitty-gritty. Okay, so for the third pillar, I highlighted some stuff. I'm just going to hit them. We might not spend more than 2 minutes on them. We might spend longer. I'm not sure.
Can I just, before you get started, can I just say something about this, three pillars thing?
Yes.
It's almost like there is no third one. And I think we said this in an earlier video. Are we going on the premise that the third one is just a whole bunch of content?
Yeah, we didn't know because they didn't say.
So poor marketing there. Don't be.
Or was it good marketing? Think about it.
Makes you think.
Makes you think.
Really
what if you
think.
could tell? What if you could tell the consumers you have 3 pillars, but then you actually just have 2?
Then people are upset. That's what happens.
They're not.
Makes you think.
We're little piggies. We love it.
All right. So I kind of cherry-picked a few that I thought were important. Like we said, the third pillar is very vague. But then at the end, I'm going to rattle off a list. And if either of you guys particularly want to talk about any of them, just let me know. Starting with riding creatures. Brian, you love riding creatures.
I find it extremely amusing. I don't know why. Because it's really just you're kind of moving around a bit quicker than you do on foot, and your screen kind of goes back and forth a little bit.
That's why I'm afraid to do it in VR.
I don't think it would be a good idea in VR. I think you would be violently ill very quick. But in the regular game in third person, I think it's a lot of fun. It's stupid.
It adds a lot of immersion.
That's my problem with all of these third pillar thing. They're all just dumb. Fundamentally, it's just kind of dumb. And one thing, and I haven't played this game in a bit because I've been addicted to Kerbal Space Program recently, and I don't know if they fixed this, but one of the problems that I found was that there's recipes for making shit that needs Mordite, which used to be just the stock thing that you got from killing shit, and since now it's meat, a lot of that stuff is kind of broken. So hopefully they fix that. Hopefully.
Gotcha. Well, Brian,
but I like riding the creatures. The quest line to be able to do it is really short and it's not that involved, which I like because it's not a feature that you'd really. Yeah. I mean, unless you found a huge thing or something that could fly, I don't even know if you can ride the flying ones.
I wish you could take a creature as a pet and teleport it onto your base or some shit. You could take a creature, just one, and make it your creature, and they can fly, and you could just bring it to any planet. That is your creature. I don't know, but
yeah, but they would die, cool. Dude. If you
they would die.
If it was a desert guy and you brought him to an ice planet.
I have a biology degree, and I'm not even thinking about if they would die or not. So you're right, Brian. You're right.
Well, there could be a creature room, just like there's a plants room. There could be a creature room.
Preach a creature room. I love it. All right, I think riding
Your crab
creatures
lives in that
is
room.
done. Inventory limitations. They alleviated a lot of inventory limitations with the goal of alleviating grinding. They call that out specifically. I mean, that's just nice. Like I
was actually really underwhelmed with that. Like that was the first thing I was anticipating when I picked it up again. And I didn't my inventory was full really quick.
Well, you have to. So if you're coming right off of Next, you have to like manually consolidate everything. But once it's all consolidated, it's better than not having inventory alleviation.
No, it was better. Agreed.
I really like. I think it misses the mark on alleviating grinding because you're still like.
You're still grinding.
I think that was. But there are updates that, or in the update, there are modules that you can get for your laser that increase your mining output.
Ooh, yeah,
which is rolled into that. And I haven't played it much in the past like week and a half, but that's part of that. I think I really like not having the caps on the common stuff. I wish they had increased the caps on like some of the crafted stuff. You can still only carry 5 in a slot, and I wish you could carry like 20.
Agreed.
Or a bit more than that, like, because if you can carry like 25 tons of rock dust in your backpack, you can carry a few more glass panels.
Preach.
Well, here's the other thing: having the weight restrictions or the inventory limitations doesn't add anything fun to the game. Like in some games it is fun where survival is like a part of it. You have to be conscientious about what you're choosing to take and what you're choosing to leave, and you have to make tough decisions. But in this game, it's just like, I found something kind of cool, but then I have to drop like copper, which isn't so rare, but like I kind of need it. It's just kind of. I don't think it adds much in terms of gameplay. It just pads it out.
It adds a lot in terms of building a base, especially when you're doing it in cooperative mode. Like, Jake and I were building a base the other night. The other night being, like, again, 2 weeks ago. And he was like, it was like ferrite or something. I was like, how much do you need? And he was like, I need 1,200. But because it was all in one stack, I could give him 1,200 in one thing, and it felt... I
totally agree with that. I was saying I don't think it adds a lot to have a cap. I don't think there should be a cap.
The further you get, to a point, like, you don't want to be able to have like a ridiculous amount of shit and then
why not
get because if you die and you lose it, like,
you're going to be even madder.
You have to go back to like where you were, and I don't know. I think a cap is reasonable on some stuff. I just wish it was higher on the rare stuff. And the further you get, like, the more you're like, oh, I wish I had saved that instead of throwing it away because I didn't know it was really like difficult or rare. Like, I threw away a bunch of shit that was worth like hundreds of thousands of units, credits. Yeah. And I think it's not, you can't have more types of shit. You can just have more of the same shit, which I think makes sense.
Jeremy, quick unrelated question. Do you think Fallout and Elder Scrolls should have a carry capacity? Just quick.
Well, they are both pretty lenient, but I think that it adds something in that context because those are RPGs where, again, like, it makes sense. It adds something to the game where if you open up a chest and you find a bazooka, right? Well, a bazooka is a really good weapon, but it's also very heavy. So it's going to affect your playstyle. Okay, I can take the bazooka, but I'm going to have to leave behind either, resources or different weapons or armor or something. And that actually is interesting, especially if you're going to play on like a survival difficulty. Yeah. I don't think in this game, because it's all just resources fundamentally, and then a few rare items like the eggs and like ancient artifacts and stuff like that. I don't think having a cap on like, iron is or types of things. I think it should be maybe not limitless, but I think it should be really high.
All right, I feel that. Next up is all the base building enhancements. This is actually with the exception of VR, probably my favorite part of the update. because again, it's not like, and we already talked about base building in a multiplayer context, but just like they made things like snap better. They added more parts and they added power. We're not so... Jake, in particular, who's not here, is not thrilled about how they implemented power. But the idea of what you can now do with power, with, like, logic, like you can essentially program now in No Man's Sky, is not... It's promising. I really like just how base building feels now compared to how it used to feel.
Well, and again, it's fundamentally, like, it doesn't take that much if you're fairly well into the game. It doesn't take that much to research the power generation stuff and just build it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I like it. I wish more stuff kind of depended on it, because I was working on a base that had, you know, a big refiner and stuff like that in it, but none of it really seems to need power beyond the lights in the building, and the ones that you can place manually are just on all the time, so you don't need the lights in the build. Like, it doesn't feel as critical as it might. But I think the potential with the logic for the creativity aspect of the game is really interesting. Like, they showed some stuff in the trailer that I thought was really neat.
And that's stuff that, like, I would like to dabble in. Like, that's just the thing that I know I could spend 5 hours in and just, like, make something pretty cool if I ever wanted to, which is nice.
And I think that the tech tree layout helps with that too. Like, having it all laid out in one panel in front of you, and you just click on the things you want to research instead of having to scroll through a list and, like, know what everything is. It really helps. So I think the creativity aspect of this game, like, in terms of just, like, building shit, is really underutilized.
Now it's hitting a point where it's easy to do, and it's easy to do with your friends, which is key.
Right. I have confidence that they'll work out the bugs. It's just, once they work out the bugs, I think they would do well to add more stuff that you can just kind of do, like almost that Minecraft aspect of it. But you know, you could, if you get bored of one planet, you can go to another one and build all the shit there, and you know, I think that would add a lot of depth to the game. It would add a lot of, not replay value, but the sense that, like, you want to keep playing it to keep, like, building the base with your friends. Like, and that's, again, I say this a lot, it's free. Anything that you're making multiplayer smoother and encouraging collaborative, creative play is free entertainment that you're generating from your fan base.
And free marketing, ultimately.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so those were, like, the core, like, or at least not the core, but the biggest things on the third pillar. I'm gonna rattle. We've touched on some of this other stuff.
You forgot the biggest thing.
Brian, that's in it. Don't you worry. I'm gonna rattle off, like, a miscellaneous list, because I'm trying not to leave anything out. If either of you think it's critical to talk about, you can either stop me if it's super critical, or we'll just, like, come back to it after I read off the list. And this is just so people listening kind of also know the other stuff that was added. So we got better NPCs in general. They now walk around. There's more dialogue. They respond to your gestures. At least they're supposed to. They don't respond to mine. There is now pinning of recipes, or pinning. There was pinning in Next, but it's better now, where if you want to build something, you can almost generate a quest for yourself, and it will, like, on the UI, like your front HUD, give you the steps. Like, if you need to make something to, like, a launch pad fuel or launch fuel, it'll give you the steps to make that on your HUD. Tech trees, Brian talked about that. Now you see all the tech trees. Faster mining in general, more efficient mining. The ship controls were enhanced. And the interiors of the ships were enhanced. The discovery page, which shows, like, all of your planets and animals that you found, that's been greatly reworked. Planetary charts are also more pleasant to look at. The galaxy map as a whole is more pleasant to look at, has more information. You can now harvest different things from creatures, like you can milk them, for example. The ship interiors have been redone. And last but not least, perhaps the most important of the third pillar, you can now sit on chairs.
No, you can't sit on chairs. You can sit on benches. You can spin the chairs around, and they go squeak. But you can sit on benches. You can sit on top of other people, and you just clip straight through them. It's great. You can sit down anywhere you want. Like you can go
Brian
into
wants
the space
to talk about
anomaly. And I'm talking about it, dude. It's not. I want to. Like you can sit on like the hood of your ship. And just like watch everything. You can sit on other people's ships. You can sit on top of like things. You can sit on the ground. You know, and it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a game changer.
So well, yeah. So I think you've touched on a point where, much like sitting in chairs, like all the rest of this is ultimately adds to the game, but in the grand scheme of things, not that much. Yeah. So I think
I will say, out of that list that you listed there, the improvements to the navigation, like meaning like going between systems and stuff like that, like the extra information and the improvements that they made to like your log so you can see what's on what planet before you go there. Like I used to literally have a paper list of what was on what planet and where to go after that, because there was nothing in the game that would indicate to you what system to go. It was just the name of it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And like you can make a lot of money by just trading back and forth between a couple of systems that are pretty close together, like millions and millions of credits, but without going outside of the game and writing down all that shit on paper so you can remember it, you know, the next time you go back. You couldn't do it. With these improvements, it makes it much easier to get into trading back and forth between systems and stuff like that. Exploring, going back to planets that you kind of bypassed but you wanted to look at again. I really like that. I think they did a good job with that.
Cool. All right, then I think that wraps the third pillar. So at this point, guys, we have videos for all three pillars, and there will be cards for that you can see. Now we're going to talk about Beyond as a whole, and probably naturally bleed into, but if not, I'll do a hard transition into should you buy No Man's Sky now. But let's just talk about Beyond as a whole, and if it was a good patch, compare it to Next, compare it to Atlas Rises, whatever we need to do. I mean, I'll just say right off the bat, it per No Man's Sky, it overpromised a little in that it promised a lot and it didn't quite live up to the hype, and occasionally broke things along the way. All that being said, to me at least, VR is very significant to the game, and it's one of the best just ideas of a game to exist in VR. So I'm happy that it made it there, and it's not like a shitty Bethesda port where there's no actual VR. You don't actually interact with things with your hands, you just hit buttons. So I'm happy with VR. The rest of it is a little underwhelming, but still nice to have.
So I don't think with regards to VR and with regards to the whole thing, they promised a lot of shit and they really didn't deliver on it, but you got the VR's there and it more or less works. The multiplayer's there and it sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's better than it was. They added, there was a storyline expansion. They added in all this shit to inventory and stuff like that they said they were going to do. And they did it. They did fundamentally deliver on the things that they said they would do. They didn't go 100% on them. But
they delivered on them, but they got like a C- on
well,
what they delivered, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a teeny dev. There's not that many people on this team, and it's a really, really ambitious game.
So
Especially considered how many people they have working on it.
I mean,
and
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, just saying what you, I mean, let alone the fact that it is the size that it is the proceduralness, and it is essentially multiple galaxies, complete galaxies. Let that, like, put that aside. There are so few games that are not only multiplayer, not only VR multiplayer, but like cross-play VR, non-VR multiplayer. Like, that alone is just unbelievable.
It works. Like, the VR shit looks dopey, but like, it works. You can see the people playing in VR, like, they teleport around, and it's kind of weird, but like, you get over it after about 35 seconds.
And you use the same save. You just load in, and you can use that same save to not play in VR. It's just, that is impressive in and of itself to me.
I would say that at this point, it's still not something that would make me run out and buy a VR headset to play it. I think it could become something, like, with what they have right now, just improving on the framework they have right now, I think it could become something that would make people want to run out and buy a VR headset. But there's just too much wrong with it because we've been talking about, is this going to be VR's killer app? And I would say at this point, probably not, but it could easily be improved into something that could be.
Yeah. Let's switch, just because, like, my comments reflect. Let's just switch to No Man's Sky now. Like, should you buy this game now? On Steam, It's $60 right now. Should you buy No Man's Sky?
No. At $60, no.
And actually, let's pinpoint it more. Let's say, should you buy No Man's Sky? Should you buy it if you have VR, and if you do not have VR?
This is the type of game that will mesmerize a specific type of person. It's very difficult to put, and there's a lot of different, like, there's many people that fall into that specific type of person range, but, like, you're either gonna like this game or you're not gonna like it. I would say at $60, it's, even if you're someone who would be mesmerized in it, and I would include myself in that bunch because I've put over 120 hours into it. You know, it's not worth $60. It's worth $30 if you got it on sale, and it seems to go on sale with pretty much all of the big ones. So, like, Christmas, which coming up, or the winter sale, which is, you know, it's coming up. I would think about it, but not at full price. It's just not worth it. It's too buggy.
Yeah, so I would like, okay, this is, I mean, there's a lot to break down, because I actually have, like, another question for kind of both of you, but, like, personally, I am, like, someone who gets the ultimate No Man's Sky experience. I have like 5 friends who own the game. I personally have VR, so I get the benefit of playing multiplayer with people I know, and doing things in VR. And just touching on the VR point, there's kind of 2 camps of VR, and I feel like one of the camps just is strongly people who are super enthusiastic or people who just have never played VR. There's the camp of VR experiences that are like 3 hours long, and I actually like those a lot because, honestly, you don't really want to be in VR for like 5 hours at a time. You, like, physically get tired. And then there's, like, and a lot of people are happy with those 3-hour experiences. There's the other camp of people who want, like, oh, bring us the Skyrim and we'll come. Bring us the Fallout and we'll come. And as far as this, like we alluded to, this is that, like, this story, you know, it may not be the best story and the gameplay may not be the best, but everything is better in VR from that. Like, shitty gameplay is more fun in VR. That it's a 40-hour story, and you have galaxies to explore. You have billions of planets to explore, and you can do this all with your non-VR friends in multiplayer. Again, multiplayer is unfortunately a bit buggy and VR is a bit buggy, but I have a feeling maybe, like, I'm not going to say it's going to get better, but judging it as it is now, even as it is now, it's still worth playing even single player or not in VR. I would say maybe it's worth $45 personally. Playing without VR is still, like Brian said, if you're that kind of person, you look at this game and you know if you're that kind of person. And if you're that kind of person, you are going to love this game. And
yeah, because like it's something that you can get like immersed in.
Yeah.
If you're willing to get immersed in it and like ignore the bugs.
Exactly.
And just be like, look, this is something that's, if you look at it more, you look at it almost as an art project, or like I've always kind of looked at this game as a tech demo, because I think that the technical side of it is so ambitious, and it's repetitive, and initially it was really repetitive, but they've improved on that, and they've shown that, you know, you can build on this concept with really, really minimal resources, and that's, you have to come at it from that perspective. And if you're willing to get into it, then it's fascinating.
So I think Jeremy's biggest critic on No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I would say I absolutely cannot recommend that you buy it at $60. $30 to me would be a pretty big reach. I think I could recommend someone buy it at like maybe $10.
Oh.
Why?
Because I actually kind of, my biggest point is I mostly just agree with what Brian said. I don't really even think that this is a game. Like, in terms of gameplay, it's extremely shallow. And you fundamentally do, out of the spaceship, you basically just mine resources. You can argue that you also have a limited combat, but that's basically also just mining resources. Even the guns that aren't the mining gun play pretty similar to the mining gun. And then if on the flip side you want to say, like, it's not about that, it's about the exploration. I know we talked a little bit about this last week, but I don't think that that the environments are rich enough to me to be continuously interesting. There's variation, but it's pretty superficial.
Yeah, but you haven't been to the Bubble Planet, dude.
I have not been to the Bubble Planet, but like, that's what, as I kind of said last week, in my opinion, I'm gonna go. I'll at least see what it is, but it kind of sounds like that's one more type of planet in their repertoire. You know what I mean? Like, for my money, it's much more interesting to explore The Witcher 3 or Fallout New Vegas or Skyrim, which are much more deliberately created environments than No Man's Sky. Like, yeah, it's a finite map, but like the things that are there, particularly in The Witcher, but also in Fallout and to a lesser extent Skyrim, the things that are there are like there for a reason and like contribute. There's a story behind them oftentimes, and they have been thoughtfully added into the world, and they're often interesting and you stumble upon them. Like, I really like exploration games. I don't hate the game. I don't know. It's just there's not a lot there. Kind of for me after, and I also do like to play games for a long time, but after like the first 5 hours are pretty frustrating, and then like maybe 10 hours were kind of fun, and then after that it just kind of became like a time waster. Like, I could play for like 4 hours, but like, was I really having fun, or was it just something to kind of do? So that's my kind of overall read on the game. Don't hate it, but I don't know. I wouldn't be. I think there are other games that you could get for $60 that would be better worth the money.
Well, kind of going off what you said, it is jack of all trades, master of none. Like, there is a lot to do. Like, there is multiplayer, there is VR, there is building, there is galaxies to explore, but
Chris, multiplayer and VR and single player, fundamentally, like, multiplayer doesn't change the way you play the game. VR doesn't change the way you play the game. It's all the same game.
It definitely. When Brian, Jake, and I, and sometimes when you can join our instance, when we all play No Man's Sky, instead of going through the story, we usually, focus on building a base, or we do the missions in the Nexus, which I never do alone.
But the missions and building it's all basically the same thing. Like the missions are go somewhere,
Yeah, but you're doing it with
either
your friends.
mine something or kill something. And then, so what's fun is talking with my friends who I like because I've been friends with them for 20 years. The fun part is the game. We're doing this, and this is fun. There's no No Man's Sky out.
How much single-player Smash have you played?
None.
I don't want to answer that.
Yeah, well, you're different.
I mean, of the new title, I haven't played any. It's not fun.
It's not fundamentally like you buy that game to play with other people. Like this is, I'm not saying that this is a game that you
that's a
buy
fair
to
point.
play with other people at this point, but it could be. The collaborative aspect of it needs to be improved because I think it's a really strong potential.
This is the ever frustrating issue with No Man's Sky. When it first came out in 2016, it was that I see the promise. It was this at that time, because everything else was broken or non-existent. It was, I see the scale, give me a story. Then you got the story and you're like, I see the story, give me multiplayer.
Story.
Well, you got something, right? I see the story, give me multiplayer. Then you get I see the multiplayer now, and it always grows. And I think part of that issue is like, it goes back to the inception of the game where Sean Murray was promising, like back in 2014, he said there was going to be multiplayer. Here we are in 2019, and we have it, and it's janky as hell, and we can't trade with, like, we can't sell our ships to people, and you know what I mean? Like, it keeps getting closer. But it's still so far.
The one thing to their credit is that they do steadily improve it. Like, they do continuously come out with fixes and patches, and, like, they don't release a huge update and then you don't hear anything from them. They do continually release stuff that fixes problems with the game.
My hypothesis is that this is the last big update.
I think we have one more. I have a theory on that. But yeah, we're at the end. Video. I think it's coming to the Switch, but
well, just for a second
Switch.
To like circle way back about, and Jay, you kind of touched it with like playing for a long time. This is kind of a game that is designed to play for a long time, and I think that it provides a really interesting test bed for the VR stuff. Like, because you're not going to want to be standing up for 10 hours straight. Like, you can sit down in a chair for 10 hours straight and play a video game, but you're not going to be standing up and walking around and throwing stuff for 10 hours straight. Like, you're going to want to sit down. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what, if anything, we learn from this.
Well, the other thing to me is that I know VR fans will just have a different take, and I guess, like, to an extent that just isn't for me, or aspects of it just aren't for me, because I appreciate the fact that No Man's Sky is so visual. I could see how being in VR would change how you perceived the terrain, and just kind of have the opportunity to, like, that superficiality wouldn't matter as much, Chris. Like, I understand what you're saying with that. But to me, the actual gameplay, such as it is not well suited to VR. Like, the idea of, like, having to basically teleport constantly and, like, jump to new points in space, that lack of context, I think I would find very disorienting. So I think that's my like, to me, it's clear that they didn't design the actual gameplay with VR in mind. I still think in terms of, like, a full-length title, no one's really cracked that yet.
I'll just
again think about where the game, like, where VR was in 2014.
Maybe if the whole thing in VR was, like, on an exocraft, like a really small exocraft, and you just played it seated. I understand that's more restricted.
Dad motor scooter.
No, I'm gonna close my thought. I'm gonna say this about No Man's Sky VR. Just, if this game did not have any issues, if it was bug free, if you could do multiplayer flawlessly, never had any problems, if there were no VR UI issues where the UI doesn't follow you as you turn, if none of that existed, I would say this is hands down the best VR game, like, period, of all the VR games I've played, at least.
But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you like to play? Like that, that's what it is. It's if I ignored all of the issues, which the issues are kind of central to the game at this point.
Well, yeah,
and
exactly.
Again, and I think again, this just to me, at a certain point, it just does come down to difference in taste, Chris. Because even without the bugs, like again, just having to repeatedly teleport, that doesn't sound appealing.
Yeah,
but I think that's a different strokes for different folks conversation.
Yeah, they handle teleporting very well. You don't have to teleport; you can free move. But
yeah, but then you instantly vom on your trows.
Depends on who you are. But
well, that's what I'm saying. I would. I guess other people do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally good. If you guys are, if you have any like final thoughts, that'd be cool.
Go get the game. It's great.
For $10. Jeremy says, "Go get the game for $10."
Or
go
$70.
Get the game on sale. It's great on
Buy it
sale.
twice.
It's great on sale. And yeah, if you have VR, you should if you have PSVR, where I understand you can get used copies of this game for like nothing, you should definitely buy this. But yep. All right. That wraps up our No Man's Sky Beyond content, unless something else cool comes up. So until something else cool comes up, what should our listeners do, Brian?
Well, if people should get you on sale, go ahead and hammer your thoughts on that down on the word box there.
Damn.
And yeah, that was. I'm sorry about that one. Like Chris said at the beginning of the video, we're giving away a copy of Astrologia.
Yeah, don't even try.
Astrologia. So go ahead and click that subscribe button because we're pretty damn close. So you could be the lucky listener viewer. So you know, and if you watch this far, you probably like what we got. So we got a ton more shit like this on the channel. So go ahead and click that subscribe button. Thumbs up if you liked it. Thumbs down if you didn't, because we do like the intelligent discourse here on the Cohesive Friendship Unit channel. And smoke them if you got them, guys. That's all for me tonight, Chris.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Catch you guys next time.